I would like to invite Nicholas Betos, who's councilman from the village of Estero, to come forward because it's through his hard work that we've been able to come up with this program, 258 Graduate Junior Achievement for the Estero area schools. Mr. Betos.
Thank you, Jim. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming today. I just want to take a moment to first of all, thank you. You're part of what I think is an historic event here in Estero. It's something that I think can be emulated around the county and around the state. We are gathering, we have a program that we've started, an initiative. It was a memorandum of understanding with the Lee County School District, where the county school district and the village are getting together to try to make the schools in Estero better. You are the important part of this. As ambassadors for Estero, you're reaching out to the students and are going to affect their lives. Your work there is going to make our schools better and stand out from all the other schools. And hopefully other school areas will do the same. We thank you very much for this. The results of what you're doing are going to affect directly the children, but are going to affect the community itself. It's going to affect the fact that people will want more will want to come to this community to live and to work. So I thank you, and thanks for doing what you've done, for the time you've given, and I hope that you pass it on to others. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Mr. Betos. The leader for the second grade section for the Pine Woods Elementary and Three Oaks Elementary School is Lisa Mason. Lisa lives at Miramar Lakes community. She has two sons that are in students in Lee County.
So I've been involved with both the second and fifth grade sessions as part of our Junior Achievement Estero program. And just by way of an overview rather, that would apply to all of the grades. I think it's important for anyone that's new to this to know the way that the process works. So in terms of second and fifth grade anyway, we go into the classroom and we hold 5 45-minute sessions. And for second grade in particular, which we're talking about right now, the theme is our community. And so it introduces the kids, the students in the class, to the idea of what it means to be a part of a community, what a community is, and the different roles that they could potentially play within a community. It talks about, there's a baker within our community, and a banker, and a financer, and a teacher, and talks a little bit about what those roles are, and then it also talks about how they interconnect within the community. It's really hands-on, lots of games, as for all the grades. I know all of us who have either taught or at least been familiar with the curriculum itself. One of the great benefits of this program is just the fact that it's so hands-on and so interactive and really engages the kids, especially at a grade 2 level. All the lesson tools that are provided to are colorful and thought-provoking and interactive, gets them up and moving around the classroom and really having fun, which is so important, especially at that age. But I did want to call on Tammy Slawinski, who's here. She has had the experience of being in the classroom, the second grade classroom, and is going to tell us a little bit about that, what she's experienced through that.
Yes, I just did my first curriculum this past fall. I do have a second grader and then a 4-year-old, so that's why I chose to do the second grade. So I went into the second grade classroom. It was about 18 children at Three Oaks Elementary, and like Lisa said, talked to them about community, and we got to cover taxes, which for some of them was a new concept. We got to talk to them about taxes and the voting process, and we got to talk to them about giving back to your community and how money moves within the community. There was lots of opportunity for extended learning when you take that home. Hey guys, when you go home today, talk to your parents about the voting process. It happened, we had the midterm elections that came up shortly thereafter. So it was a good opportunity for them to discuss voting with their families, and they got a kick out of the whole taxes. Part of the tax game we play is we give them a payday and then we go back and collect some for taxes. And they got a kick out of that, and you can see some of them that growing up might begrudge that a little bit. But it was fun to see that and interact with them on that level, and go home and talk to your parents about paying taxes and tell them it's a good thing. Is that enough?
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Thanks,
Okay.
Amy. And actually,
Sorry, I talk a lot.
one of the other interesting things about second grade curriculum, you were talking about introducing the idea of taxes. And one of the things that I loved is there's discussion in there about how government services relate to taxes. And I was amazed at how kids really didn't understand that concept yet. They didn't understand how we get our roads, how we get our schools, how we, that taxes are actually something that you pay towards those things. And so to see their faces, it was like, wow, I got it. The light bulb went off at a grade 2 level.
That was actually when I got their feedback at the end, that was one of their favorite sessions. Yeah, yep.
Let's bring Dave Nichols and Gary Israel into the discussion about second grade also, and others that have done that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to, I hope everybody who does this has the same wonderful teacher that I had, or the type of teacher. She was all on board with this. She stayed in the classroom. She listened to what was going on. She observed. She had a reward system with bear paw prints. That's their mascot at Three Oaks Elementary School. And so she used them for kids that are being quiet when they're supposed to be, or being orderly. So she printed us up our own special color of paw prints. I had a team teacher with me, Megan Pierce. And so whenever we got a good response or good reaction or cooperative play in the activities, we could hand out paw prints. And it was like gold, because they saved these up for the end of the year, and that figures into their overall grade and so forth like this. The best part was I had the opportunity, because we had some coupons for a local restaurant to give out to the students that didn't come in until after our 5 sessions were over. So I had the opportunity to go back to the classroom after school, and the teacher and I sat down for, 45 minutes and just talked about her impression of what was going on and what did she think about it. Not so much a critique on myself or Megan, but the curriculum itself. And it was very overwhelming. She was impressed with how hands-on it was and how age-appropriate it was, the vocabulary. She says, in my lessons, she says, I would come across the word and I would use it, and they would stop me and say, well, that's the vocabulary word that Miss Megan and Mr. Gary taught us, She says, so they were absorbing it, and she was really impressed that we could come in for 45 minutes once a week and make that type of impression.
I'd like to tag along with Gary's comments. I think the key to this whole program, at least for me and Cheryl Lauterbach, who assisted me, was developing a relationship with a teacher. We, fortunately, the kit that Junior Achievement gives you provides an extra booklet. So we spent time, probably 45 minutes to an hour, going over the whole curriculum with the teacher, so she was familiar with what we were going to do. We would, the Friday before the Tuesday class, we would send a note to the teacher outlining the things that we're going to do and what we're expecting her to do. So she was always prepared. And then Cheryl and I would get together on the Monday before the class and spend an hour going over the curriculum. But to have the interaction with the teacher, I think is just really important. It's a good opportunity maybe for them to get caught up on grading, but it's also a good opportunity to show their support, because they're going to take a lot of the information that's fed to the children back to the classroom during the weeks and months throughout the school year. Another point I'd like to make is I may be one of the older people sitting at this table. And so it was almost 50 years ago when I taught a 7th grade class. And then I went into the corporate environment and was in business the rest of my career. And there are probably a lot of people in my generation that are in this community that could surely take advantage of this opportunity to volunteer and participate. Gary, you didn't mention it, but when I walk in that class, and it is disruptive because they all come up and hug you. And there's nothing better than a loving hug from a child that truly wants to learn and is open to the learning experience. And people of my generation are all certified grandparents and know how to reciprocate in hugs. So I would encourage any of those that might be listening to this presentation that are in that community of golfers and stuff. It's at for Three Oaks, it's at 1:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're off the tee. get showered up and come on down and help out, because those kids will welcome you, and they'll take your information like a magnet.
Thanks, Dave. I wish we had an audio visual of Dave in his chef's costume. There's a lesson whereby you teach the children about production of, well, in this case, donuts. They actually build their own donuts, and Dave was kind enough to bring in his own chef's uniform and with the big hat and everything and wear, and I could just tell from the picture the kids loved that. But it's a good example of how you really can make the lesson your own and have fun with it and have fun with the kids, and that's why they react with a hug, definitely. Thank you. Okay, so I won't do too much of an overview about fifth grade other than to say that all the lessons from grade 2 to 5 to 8 to 11, they build on one another. And so the grade 5 curriculum is all about, it's called Our Nation. And it builds on the idea of community, but it talks about how we then expand our community to be a global community and what it means to be part of a global community. And it touches a lot, bringing that home, what that means for those students to be part of a global community. And it talks about work readiness, how to prepare them for a global work economy, and what a free market system is in the United States. And they're really, really hands-on, valuable lessons. One of my favorites is you talk about what an interview is, what a work interview is, and you do a mock interview with the kids. They love that one. You also talk about a resume. What's a resume? How do you build a resume? What are some of the skills, soft skills, hard skills, what goes on a resume? And again, this is grade 5, so it seems early for kids, but it's really not, because it really is the time to get them thinking about what kind of careers they are interested in. We talk about STEM, the science, technology,
engineering
and math, thank you, which are at the core of many public school curriculums right now. So we talk about how those are highly sought after careers, and so how it's important that if you have an interest in any one of those, you can prep yourself starting early and prep yourself to be prepared for that kind of a career. And it talks about the other high demand careers that are out there. So I did teach a grade 5 class this semester. So my own testimonial would be, along the same lines of what everybody said. It's the kids are so reactive. They are just sponges for everything you have to say. And I think, Dave, you mentioned it, that it's such a fortunate opportunity for you to go in and bring a little bit of yourself as a member of their community, bring a little bit of yourself to the lesson. The curriculum is there to give you a guideline of what you are to teach, but you are free to bend it and personalize it. And so I think Amy was kind enough to be my classroom helper, and I think we worked well together, and we really brought in a lot of personal stories, personal experiences, and the kids really react to that. And I know Amy is going to show you some of the rewards that come back to you as a teacher and ambassador in terms of how the kids react. But she'll show you that. But I would say that in my grade 5 class as well, at the end of the class, we received 25 personally written, illustrated thank you notes, along with origamis and little bracelets. And the kids were thrilled. They did not want us to leave, honestly. And we didn't want to leave. I would have easily taught another 10 classes and not gotten tired of it. So having said all that, I will pass it along to, who do we have for grade 5 here?
Luke.
Excuse me, how could I forget? Please, yeah. Tell us what you thought about your experience with Our Nation.
I think that it's really good for kids to learn to know this, because it can get them prepared for the future and what they'll need to know for the future.
Excellent. That's absolutely what we're aiming for. And I'm curious what you thought of the lessons themselves. Were they fun? Did you actually enjoy the time?
Yeah.
You did? Very good. What was your favorite?
My favorite was probably the one where we did the one game where it was you'd roll a dice and you'd go a certain space and you could draw a card and you could get a payday, or you could get a consequence, or you could get something good.
That's right. It was a board game that we play. Yeah, very fun. Thank you, sir. Well done. And also Meg is going to speak a little bit about her grade 5 experience as well.
So I taught one session of 5th graders at Pinewoods Elementary along with Jim, and I'm teaching another one now with a bigger class, and both times it's been exhilarating. It's a lot of fun. 5th graders are at that magical age. They're very open. They're very curious. very honest. They can tell you who works what in their family down to, third cousins and all that. And one of the keys to connecting with them is just asking them about their personal experience, and you can always, because we study a lot about the free market economy and how there is an economy out there, this movement of money and jobs and people doing stuff. And they get very excited when they find out that they're part of it. When you ask them, are you a producer? And they say, no. Well, did you at some point do a job for someone, walk someone's dog, have a lemonade stand? They say, yes. So you were a producer, you produced a service, you participated in the economy, and they get super excited to find that out. Also, to them, it's, a lot of them haven't thought about that outside world yet, how they're going to make, how this exactly happens, like this situation with the taxes. They don't know what taxes do. And fifth graders also don't know exactly, how you go out and get money. So they get very excited when we talk about career clusters and they find out that their parents belong to a career cluster, they're proud of their parents, that they have certain types of jobs. And it's nice for them to learn that all kinds of jobs belong in this economy, that everyone has, every job has a dignity, has some kind of special place in the economy. Of course, you need candy, you need, subtle bribes. They enjoy that. But they're amazing. And another thing I thought, for example, they did not realize what was happening with profits, what a profit is. When you have a business, how you have to pay for everything you buy and then have something left over to grow that business. So a lot of them, when we do the selling game in the beginning, they have to sell something from their desk. They price it either very high or very low, and they don't realize that they have to, either gain profit or somehow sell it. A $2 million pencil is not going to get sold. So we've had those cases. So and they get very excited about stuff like that. And
my name's Amy Kugenbecker. I'm the 8th grade leader, and we have Luca Maselli and Kathy Votlin and Anthony Cantanero here today, and my dear friend and teacher helper, Angie Gillette, and her son Luke. Anyway, I feel like we're the band of 8th grade brothers because all of us had a great time. There's some that aren't here today. I handled my teaching and supervising of my band of brothers differently in that I offered to be in the classroom with them as long as they wanted. We had a couple dual teaching teams, and some people that taught alone, but I was there with them as long as they wanted, and just to help them get the feel of how we wanted the 8th grade sessions to go with the kids, because let's face it, there isn't much of a worse age group than middle schoolers. There just isn't. But most of the classes were really good. We all had the same teacher that we worked with. She was a teacher sent from heaven. Miss Jennifer McLeod, she was great. She helped us. She was interested in the program. She helped when I would scream out, hey guys, get them calmed down. She would just put her foot down and they listened like that. And as far as our curriculum goes in the 8th grade, we have 6 one-hour classes at different times of the days. We try to stick to we teach all our classes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And this was another thing I did as the 8th grade leader. I worked out with the administration and the teacher, even worked with the school receptionist to get security forms in from everybody, met with the teacher ahead of time to schedule when was the best time for her, because really we're guests in their classrooms and they all have curriculums to deal with and testing to deal with, and we want the best time slots too so that they're listening to us and absorbing something. The other thing I did for our ambassadors, our 8th grade ambassadors, was I sat down And I'm not like these other people. I really only took an hour every week getting ready. I decided what things I was going to script and what I wasn't going to script. I got weird ideas and printed stuff, and these kids were so tired of hearing about my daughter Lindsay because she graduated in 2017. So I really have lots of stories about her, of things she's done that these kids don't want to do or really shouldn't do. You know, overdrawing of checking accounts, and that's what our curriculum is about we start from you have to have a self-awareness of yourself. If you're, like I told them, I love to watch Ohio State football, but am I ever going to be able to play Ohio State football? And I told them, you're not going to hurt my feelings. And I try to incorporate public speaking in this, with this group as well. So there's lots of, we pass out vocabulary words, but back to the Ohio State thing. So I say, okay, why am I never going to play Ohio State football? I said, anybody, you're not going to hurt my feelings. First kid raised his hand and he looks down and he goes, you're not fit. I said, I told you weren't going to hurt my feelings. And yes, you are correct. So just some of these stories, I mean, we would just laugh because and that's, back to the second grade, that's why I could never teach second grade. They're too funny. I'd be doing nothing but laughing at them. And so it was a wonderful 6 weeks. I hope we get as lucky with our next class. Angelo Cantanero, would you like to say something?
First, Amy was great.
Thank you.
She sent little notes for every class with some ideas, many of which I used, quite helpful. The teacher, Miss McLeod, was great too, always prepared, always ready for us when we walked in, so she was great. Now that said, I had an absolute ball. I created and gave presentations for the last 27 years of my career. And the first day I walked into the class, Amy was there. I was a bit apprehensive, and I told the kids that. I said, I did this for 27 years, and I gotta tell you, I'm a little nervous. Well, I'll tell you, I didn't remember how much I missed creating presentations and giving presentations. It was just fun. It brought me back to my work days. I had a ball. Second thing, candy is a great motivator. I happened to teach a class on Halloween, and so I brought in candy and was trying to get some participation in the class. And they were okay, but not as good as I really wanted them to do. So I started throwing candy asking for volunteers. And as they volunteered, I threw candy, and I had every hand in the room up. And it didn't only work on Halloween. It worked yesterday too, because I was getting them on insurance, and I have to be careful with insurance because that was my business. So I really needed to be sure I didn't make it too technical. And the kids were great. The teachers were great. Amy was great, and I had a ball. I just had an absolute ball. I loved it. I can't wait to do it again.
Thank you, Angelo. And then Luca Maselli,
I guess
he taught 8th grade.
I guess I'll piggyback off you guys too about how great Miss McLeod was. Yep, I'm green. How great Miss McLeod was, and I was spoiled with the kids too because I would have something prepared to go in there, and then you ask them what the topic is, and half the room already knows what it is, and they would raise their hands and they'd participate, but there'd be times when they wouldn't participate. And I'd think, I want to get them going. But when I listen, they were talking to the person sitting next to them who maybe didn't know the topic as well. And they were actually telling them about it, or they were interacting with each other, but they weren't talking about whatever. They were talking about that topic. So sometimes I kind of stood back a sec, like, okay, let me give them a sec. They're kind of working on this themselves. Let them and then they'd come back to me and I'd try to clarify stuff. So I was spoiled with the class, for sure. I think the prep, your emails were great. I'm someone who needs to write stuff down to kind of refresh myself and really understand it. So I had a little book, and each section I'd go through, and I'll use this for the future. I'd go through the book and I'd make my own notes about the terms or the topics, and then I'd always get to the part where it said, all right, give some examples of yours. And I always left that blank because I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but then when I got there and I was in the moment, maybe someone asked a question, someone asked an example, that was when I really was able to give an experience or give some scenario to really go off what they were asking about, or maybe what they were the most curious about.
Thank you, Luca. And we have Kathy Voteland here, who is a former educator from my hometown. We both lived in Cleveland. I'm an East Sider and she's a West Sider. That doesn't mesh in Cleveland, but we meshed in the classroom, didn't we, Kathy?
Yes, we did. And again, thanks to you for all your help.
You're welcome.
And I was a person who spent over 20 years in business, and then the last 15 years of my work career, I was a 7th and 8th grade teacher. They call us in middle school the guerrilla warriors of education, which we kind of are. Going into this classroom with only 18 students, that's all I had, was like dying and going to heaven, because I was used to 28 to 30 that I had to handle on my own. The school was fabulous. It is a wonderful middle school. Ms. McLeod, the classroom teacher, was terrific, and the kids were great. They were absolutely wonderful, well-behaved, really enjoyed being with them. The materials that we got from Junior Achievement were really very comprehensive, a lot of things there. You know, for anyone who might not have the education background that I did, there should be no fear to do this, because you're given everything you really need. And with Amy's support, it would be wonderful, you know, easy to do. The things that they've covered, kind of the curriculum we went through, so I don't really need to add to that. The one thing I will again state, the more real world stories you can bring to kids this age and relate to things you have experienced, that really gets their attention. They love real world things at this age. They kind of perk up and all pay attention to those types of experiences. And I also agree that you need to have candy. I found that Skittles, Starbursts, and Jolly Ranchers worked very, very well for anyone in that category. So that's kind of what I've got to say.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to introduce my team partner here, Angie Gillette, who is starting her own business, really didn't want to teach, but when I told her she could come and do nothing but hang things up on the wall, she was all in. And then Angie, maybe you can elaborate real quick how that went for you when you found how much you really could contribute and we bounced off of each other.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually taught JA second grade back in my previous career in Chicago. So I had done Junior Achievement before, and I definitely had the jitters about being in charge because I just retired from PTO after many, many years and am working on focusing my business. But I'm so glad that I did this and that Amy came out. She truly makes everything so easy. So even if I was leading coming off of her, it would have been very easy for me to just jump in and manage the class, and I have no doubt if she's ever gone that I'd be able to do that for her. But the most enjoyable part is really just bouncing off of each other. Like if she's doing something, I would interject. Now I'm not a shy or quiet person, so I'm not one to just kind of sit back and listen anyway, but.
My name is Kenny James, and I'm the leader of the 11th grade, and it's so nice to hear from you guys, and I'm learning I got to pick my game up because, Gary, I didn't get the hugs. And, but I also understand why, and I chose 11th grade because I do work with a lot of athletes that are like young Olympians, 19, 20, some professional athletes, and then some young business people. So I like that age, but it was very, very interesting, and it was wonderful. I'm known as a human performance expert, and it was nice to see how the children developed over the 4 sessions. They grew, they gained trust, and then they opened up. And the curriculum was wonderful. I found myself also interjecting a lot of personal experiences. And I had a great experience with a gentleman, Frank Mosier. Frank, I co-teamed his first class, and I enjoyed the heck of it with you. I really respect you. I think you're wonderful, and it was great. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience?
If you like, my green light on here.
Please.
Okay. Yes, I must confess that I had some serious doubts after, spending quite a bit of time studying the career success program that JA
given me, I had some serious doubts about the amount of interest that 16 and 17-year-old kids would have in this subject. And so Kenny joined me in the very first class here at Estero High School, and it began at 7 a.m. and it's night school at 7 a.m. And 16 and 17-year-olds are not all that sharp at 7 a.m. And so my worst doubts about their interest were pretty much confirmed in the first session. The program is really kind of a self-interest. The program causes or asks students to dwell on and decide what their skills are. What can I do? What talents do I have? What interests, which in many cases could be very different than their skills, and then we kind of branch that into the opportunities that are out there, particularly those opportunities that are coming in the near future for these young people, 16 and 17 years old. And then we get into the kind of interpersonal soft skills portion of the program, and the importance, as Amy had pointed out earlier, I didn't know you got into that in the 8th grade, but in here it's especially focused the importance of establishing and maintaining eye contact, stand up in a nice firm handshake, and a smile and acknowledgement of what the other person is saying, not just aggressive listening, but not just aggressive speaking, but to do some aggressive listening to what the other party is saying, and the importance of that, not just in a job interview, but in life, the importance of these interpersonal soft skills. And so I felt like I accomplished something with the interpersonal skills side. What we did in their own skills, interests, and opportunities, it's tough to gauge, but interpersonal skills, I think, was successful.
I had a very similar experience, and after my first one-on-one teaching with a class, I went to the teacher, and I got her to open up, and I said I needed her help, and I needed feedback. What do the kids respond best to, and what's gone well with the lesson that I taught, and what hasn't gone so well? And I wanted feedback, I wanted connection from her, and she said the kids really responded to activities. So from there, I did change my teaching style a little bit, and the kids responded real well. And I also, I want to convey to somebody that's thinking about volunteering or teaching, team teaching is wonderful. I've got a young lady who's in the finance department at Hertz, and she's probably 20-some years younger than me, and she and I couldn't be two different people, but it works.
I also taught in the 11th grade, and something that was said earlier I can't emphasize enough, which is involving the teacher. My first class, I hadn't met the teacher. I had no idea what the class was going to be like. And I worked after that at emailing her and communicating with her. But I think talking to the teacher before you start to find out what's the class like. I taught in a community college, and every class has its own personality. So you need to take a different approach. The particular class that I had many students or several students with some special needs.
Yeah.
So that sets up a whole different atmosphere in the classroom. So, so I think getting involved with the teacher because they can help you out. I have Ms. Gant, and she has been really helpful in the classroom. The other thing that you can do is if she knows what you're going to be doing, she or he can prepare the classroom for what you're going to do, set up groups if you're going to be working in groups, and then can follow up after you have your class. She happens to teach English. So a lot of what we were doing, as you said, is interpersonal skills, team building, conflict resolution, which meshes with an English class. So, you know, she could then follow up with the things we talked about. So I think that's just one of the most important things you can do. I will say, we talked about doing activities. One of the activities we had, which I thought really demonstrated the whole conflict resolution and team building and working together in groups, it was a project that they did in groups of 4 or 5. They were given 25 index cards and 25 paper clips. They had to build a structure. And it was, one of the things that was judged on was how tall it was. And when I first saw this, I thought, how the heck are they going to do this? And then I started thinking about it. Well, what was really interesting, they got really involved in it. It was interesting to see how some of the groups all worked at it and worked together. Some were working on almost 2 different projects. Some weren't working on it at all. So it was interesting to watch their group dynamics, but it also was interesting to see that they all came up with different structures. And it was really an interesting class for me, and they really got into working together and doing a project like that.
So that you know, the fall term is about to wind down. There have been 32 individual classes in these 4 Estero area schools, 164 individual class sessions, over 750 students have been engaged with Junior Achievement Program, thanks to you and thanks to the other folks. We really want to recognize and thank the schools for inviting us to be a part of this. And Nick is right, you're making history. We want to be a model community for other communities in Southwest Florida to look at what the village of Estero is doing, what you're doing with the schools, and for them to emulate this, for them to take every piece of this that they can. I want to thank Vanessa Santiago. She's done an outstanding job in working with us shoulder to shoulder. We've been connected at the hip, and certainly Angela Fisher and their whole team. It's been a real great pleasure. We're now recruiting for the winter and spring term. We have a number of 2nd grade classes that'll be a lot of fun at Pine Woods Elementary and Three Oaks Elementary. We want to book those up full. We like team teaching because if there's some reason that you can't make it, Cheryl can make it, you know, and this kind of thing. So again, thank you very much. It's great to be together. Luke, thank you for being a part of this whole thing. And he comes all the way up from Naples and from work and does this, even though he lives north of Fort Myers. So thank you, thanks to everybody, and have a great evening. Thank you. Take care.